Hey guys, I'm David Mitchell, founder and CEO of TRADEway. What if God himself gave you a blueprint for how to handle your money? Well, the Bible is a practical book. Let's dive in and see what it has to say about wealth, about risk, about leverage, and about investing, and uncover how trading in the stock market can be a powerful tool for moving towards your biggest goals. We're so happy you're here. This is The Word on Investing. Hey guys, welcome to our podcast again today. I'm really excited about today's show. I've got a great friend on today, Tommy Thornburgh. He's president of Prime Corporate Services. And I'll tell you what, if you guys are getting interested in having your own stock trading business, running that as a business, bringing in the kids and the grandkids and teaching them skill sets and have the potential to create generational wealth and all the things we talk about on this show, you're going to need to talk to Tommy, okay? No doubt about it. You need to talk to Tommy and his staff because we're going to show you that a huge part of running it as a business and setting it up as a business has to do with actually creating entities and things like that. So, Tommy, I want to welcome you to the show, and thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor being back.
Well, great. Listen, you'll have a chance to tell our folks more about what you're doing, but I just want to kind of briefly go over everything you guys offer. But before I do that, let me ask you this. How has your experience with TRADEway clients been so far?
Yeah, thank you for asking, and thank you once again for having me. I'm excited to be here. The TRADEway clients have been awesome. Everyone's so easy to work with, so down to earth. And what I love about this group of people is it makes my life easy because what we're going to talk about is tax savings, and people don't necessarily love taxes, but they do love tax savings. And what I love about this group is they're huge on giving back. A lot of them want to be able to donate to a cause or donate to a charity. And not only are those deductible expenses, but the more that you can save in taxes, the more you have the ability to do what you want to do. So TRADEway clients have been exceptionally happy with that idea.
Oh, that's super. You know, the truth is this particular episode, if you guys are out there and you're just thinking about, well, stock trading might be cool if I can learn to do that, run it as a business. Just this thing we're going to talk about today about tax savings and asset protection could be the thing that really you get really excited about. So Tommy, this is going to be a really beneficial show for everybody out there. Now, let me just list the 4 services of Prime Corporate Services. All right. First of all, entity formation. That means to create a corporation or an LLC and actually run your trading business as a business. So there's entity formation. Secondly, there's personal tax preparation. And thirdly, we're going to help you create or develop credit, okay? Because that's something I'm going to talk about in a second. Maybe something you haven't thought about because business credit is different than personal credit. And then the fourth thing is estate planning. All right, now in my opinion, all of these services are necessary for our TRADEway guys, okay? Because you're going to set this up as a business. It's going to be a several generational business probably. And all of these services are really important. So Tommy, I'm going to go back to the first one now. I'm going to put these in a little different order than I just listed them. The first thing I want to talk about is IRS tax preparation. And guys, before I let Tommy speak to this issue, because he's the authority on it, but I just want to tell you this. The thing that we teach in TRADEway all the time is you got to start thinking like an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur realizes you only have so much time in the day. So you've got to focus on the skill sets that you're good at to have the potential to create the revenue and the wealth for your family and let other people do things you used to do, like mowing the grass, for example. I use that all the time. I always say Warren Buffett doesn't mow his grass. And it's not because it's snooty. It's because he cannot afford to pay himself $100,000 an hour, which we may be worth, to mow grass. He needs to be doing the stuff he does, right? Okay, so now apply that to tax preparation. I know you guys, you like to go out there and get yourself software and do your own taxes. So forget that. You don't ever need to do your taxes. And I will promise you, and Tommy will back me up on this, doing taxes for stock trading is different. I mean, there's some things about it you're not going to know how to do anyway. So Tommy, talk to us a little bit about how people can leverage your skill sets and all the hundreds of thousands of man hours you've spent learning how to do this instead of them doing it.
I love it. Dave, I'm laughing over here as well because I've intentionally never owned a lawnmower. I'm not going to be mowing my lawn. There's time better spent elsewhere. So we've never talked about that, but I have never owned a lawnmower and never plan on owning one either.
That's funny. Now, I've actually had people tell me when I've said this, in a live meeting, they'll raise their hand even and stop the meeting and ask me a question. I say, but I do it for relaxation. I'm going to say, well, you need to start learning how to read charts for relaxation. You're seriously. You need to do. If you're going to change your entire family for several generations, you got to change some of the things you do. You got to change habits. You can't stay who you are and be something different or have anything different. So, yeah, I get it. But that's because you've probably always been an entrepreneur.
Very true. And that's one of the big things that we preach over here is if you treat this like a hobby, it's going to cost you like a hobby, right? But if you treat it like a business, allow yourself the ability to reap the rewards of a business. What I love about the message that TRADEway preaches is allow this to be generational, right? This isn't just about you. This is about the people that are coming behind you that you care about and the legacy that you want to leave. You don't want to hand them over your old fishing pole. You want to hand them down a profitable business that they can genuinely actually care about and take pride in, right?
That's right. I love that analogy. Really, that's a great way to put it. You got to get serious about learning about money, how money works. And a huge part of money and how it works is how do you protect it? Because the scripture says that gold will take up wings like an eagle and fly away. So the world knows how to take your money away. It'll do it through taxes. It'll do it through frivolous lawsuits. And it'll take away the hard work you've done your whole life if you're not smart about it. And Tommy is smart about it. And he's going to share some of that with you. Now, here, see if you agree with this, Tommy. Okay, you got two evils we can really talk about. One is asset protection, where someone would take away your hard-earned money with a frivolous lawsuit or something. And an entity helps with that. But you also have the IRS, which is going to take money away. Now, with President Biden coming in, it's like, Tommy, your value just went way up. You could probably raise the prices of all your services right now, thanks to Biden, because he's going to double your taxes probably. So that makes Tommy's advice twice as important or more. I look at it this way. You might get sued in a lifetime, but you're flat going to get it taken away by the government. They're flat going to take it away. And here's what I think, Tommy, is they've set this up where the average blue-collar American knows nothing about how to protect that, but the congressman knows how to do it. Big business guys know how to do it, and they don't really necessarily want you to know how to do it, but there are legal ways to minimize your taxes. So let's talk about that a little bit more, Tommy, because, this is huge.
Yeah, the tax preparation service. Here's one thing that I love, and Benjamin Franklin said this years ago, 2 things that are certain: death and taxes. As far as taxes are concerned, we do have a full team of accountants and CPAs. And not only do we file personal taxes, but we really focus on business taxes, because on a 72,000 plus page tax code, there are a lot of areas that business owners can take advantage, right? And it's not a matter of cheating the system. We want to do things by the book. But if that book's 72,000 plus pages, that gives us a lot of area to be able to find deductions that ultimately keep money in the entrepreneur's pocket, in the entrepreneur's corner, right? So by having a larger team of accountants and CPAs, the benefit, especially for a lot of the TRADEway clients that we've already worked with, some of them are not just trading, right? Some of them are already entrepreneurs in other areas. And if you have a team of accountants or CPAs that understand multiple different areas of business, how can you make sure that it's not about how much money you make? It is all about how much money you're able to keep in your pocket, in your corner, to be able to reinvest, put into your own retirement, or throw it off a bridge. I don't care what you do with it, but give yourself that option, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to tie in a minute. The last thing I want to talk about is entities, but it's going to tie in with that, obviously. And, the thing is, when I talk to Tommy, I learned stuff. Okay. So I'm an MBA. I own 4 businesses and I've owned other businesses through my life. And Tommy, you may not believe this, but I actually did the accounting for my businesses up until just a few years ago. And we hired professional CPAs on the staff to do it. I did it. And I knew just enough about it to be dangerous, right? So every time I talk to you, I learn something that I thought I knew. And you say, well, it's not exactly like that. It's better than that. And you already did that today, by the way, before we came on. So I want to get to the entities in a minute, but the tax preparation, I don't want to leave that till I've got you guys promising you will let Tommy do your taxes. Don't do it yourself. So raise your hand. I'm going to swear you in. All right. Raise your right hand, everybody. I solemnly swear not to do my own taxes, and I probably won't mow my grass anymore. So we're going to focus on generational wealth creation. Now, let's talk about the establishment of business credit for a minute, because it was interesting when we started TRADEway back in 1999. We realized all of a sudden, if we want to take money from our clients through a banking system, through a credit card system, you can't even set that up to even take money, to make money through that system unless you have credit, right? So what if I hadn't had that ability? I wouldn't have had business credit. We couldn't have even taken money from the client. So tell us how important that one is.
It's such an amazing concept that when you get an itch and you want to go out and be self-employed, all of a sudden you have all these loopholes that you have to jump through. Like, how do I collect money for service that people want?
Exactly. It's ridiculous, but it's out there.
Yep, for sure. And the other thing is it's a liability factor, right? And business credit is something that for a lot of the traders that we've worked with in the past, we don't talk a lot about business credit because you can't trade with it. That's not the goal. We don't want you to build business credit to get into debt. You're trying to do the opposite, right? But where business credit is valuable is separating the financial liability and giving yourself the ability to have the vision for long-term growth, right? So regardless of what the business venture is, and I go back to the TRADEway clientele being an entrepreneur, right? For most of you, once you make money, you want to get into real estate, or once you make money, you want to get into another business and residual income. If you can build business credit, think about it this way. Right now, you have your name, your social security number, and your credit score, right? If we can do the same thing for the business, we want to name it, we want to get you the EIN number, and if we can build this separate credit profile, that way you're separating the financial liability and you can build and utilize business credit instead of personal funds or personal credit, right? So it just eliminates the things that you potentially want to do in the future, opens the doors, and allows you the ability to separate that financial liability.
I hope you guys out there are thinking about what kind of doors this could open for you. Now, let me ask you this, Tommy. Could it be as simple as this? Once they get let's just say a business corporate credit card, it may not be a corporation, it's an LLC, but you can set that up. You can talk about this in a minute when we get to entities. Set it up as a corporation, or it works like a partnership or an S Corp or whatever. But you set that up and you have a business credit card. And then let's say you travel across the country to a TRADEway educational meeting. Couldn't you use that business credit card for the airfare and for the expenses along the way in the trip? And it makes your bookkeeping easier.
Absolutely. Yes. I think it's crazy not to. Not only do you want the rewards and the flight miles so that you're not paying for that flight to get to the TRADEway, but you're also deducting it. Take the rewards, give yourself the deductions, and keep more money in your pocket all the way around.
All right. So I think you guys, have we convinced you need some counsel on establishing business credit? All right, we'll tick that one off. Let's go to the next one. And I want to save most of our time for the last one. This is the third one, though, estate planning. Now, guys, the world is a funny place out there. I mean, every non-Christian entity and non-Christian person out there is going to convince you that it's evil for a Christian to even consider wealth creation. And where that comes from, I don't know, because if you look in the Old Testament especially, the wealthiest people in the world were God's people. Like Abraham is one of the few people I see where the scripture says, and God counted him as a friend, and yet he might have been the wealthiest man in the world. I know Job probably was, and Solomon and David, and on John, in the New Testament, John owned a fishing business with a bunch of employees. And these people were dear to God's heart, right? So where does the world get the idea that we're not supposed to create wealth and generational wealth for our children and our grandkids and our families, because that creates a moat around our family. It's like a moat around a castle. It's protection. Money is just protection for our family. So where we get the idea that it's evil to even think about it. So get rid of that, number one. So here's a great way to think about it. The whole idea of business is to create wealth. There's no other reason. And I see so many people, Tommy, and I don't want to be critical. I really don't. Because some of our listeners, some of you guys, you're going to fit in this boat. But I want to give you some advice. I know a lot of people who own a little mom and pop business that really all it does is that business owns them, takes up all their time. They spend all their time with the bookkeeping, trying to do their own bookkeeping. They do all this and pay their employees and end up with very little money coming in to themselves from this business. Listen, that's not the idea of business. The whole idea of business is to create wealth for your family. All right. So if we expect that, then we're going to need estate planning. So talk about that briefly, and then we'll get to the best part, the entities.
Yep, absolutely. With estate planning in general, like you said, you live and you work your whole life to be able to eventually leave something to the future generations, right? And I think everyone that's probably listening is thinking to themselves, I want to leave my wealth, I want to leave legacy to my children, to my grandkids, to your dog. I don't care who it is, but everyone's got someone, right? And a lot of that gets washed up if you don't have the proper areas in place to be able to protect that wealth, right? So with estate planning, we focus on trusts, wills, living wills, power of attorneys. And the one thing that I will say is every state is different. I use California as the example often as the poster child of what not to do, if you will. But if something happens and you're in California and you own a home, the last thing you want to do is leave that up to probate and allow the state to decide where your wealth goes, right?
Right.
Simple as having the proper entities, the proper business in place. And by having trust and by having wills, most of the time that's going to help avoid that probate if something were to happen to you, right? Because like we talked about earlier, it's not a matter of if, but when. And when something happens to you, when health goes away, when you end up passing, make sure you have those buttoned up. Everyone's got a story that says, well, I know someone that when they passed away, now they don't talk. The brothers don't talk. The sisters don't talk. The family hates each other over a couple of bucks. If those things are buttoned up and the intention of what you have and the wealth that you have created is able to go where you want, a lot of times it saves that legacy and keeps that family closer in a lot of cases.
Absolutely. And estate planning is something people really don't like to think about. And because you just, but what you mentioned, two things are going to happen, taxes and death. So you're covering two of those. Your company covers two of those for people to help them get through that time. Now, estate planning is huge. And you don't want to go into probate court because then the court and the state has control of your assets for a while. And it can be a long while. And tax planning for that event, especially with the Democrats in control again, they're going to reinstitute the death tax and the gift tax, which the Republicans took away. Now it'll come back, and it can be huge. All right, let's go to the last one here. Let's talk about trading through an entity. Talk to me about how you like to set that up and what that means and the benefits to our friends out there listening.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I want to say is when you talk to somebody about entities, it can become very complicated very quickly, right? And that's what we don't want to do. Let's try and keep it simple and keep it easy, but help you understand how to utilize the benefits that come from having the proper entity in place, right? It doesn't do you any good if we tell you this is what's best and then you don't use it, right? It's like having a valuable book on the shelf that's just collecting dust and you never get around to reading it. So there's different types of entities, whether it's LLCs, S corporations, C corporations, partnerships. So the first thing that I'll say is speak with a member of our team just so that you do understand based off of your situation, which entity is best for you. Because everyone's situation is different. That's the rude reality. Some of you work a W-2 job. Some of you are already self-employed. Some of you have been trading for years, and some of you are just paper trading, right? So you can imagine with those 4 quick examples, how much variation there is amongst everyone's situation. So by understanding which entity is best for you, that's going to open up the conversation of what the ultimate goal is. And that's making sure that you have asset protection. Like you said, asset protection is a funny thing. There's over 40 million lawsuits a year in the US. It's a scary thought. Every couple of seconds, there's a lawsuit being filed. And it's one of those things that also is like, well, it's not going to happen to me. It's an easy thing to push aside. But that's what, give yourself the peace of mind. Estate planning, entity, and asset protection isn't about what happens when it happens. It's about having the peace of mind, right? I don't have car insurance expecting to go pick up a coffee and get in a car accident, but I have car insurance, right? So make sure that you give yourself that asset protection, not because of the fear of what could happen, but the peace of mind of living your everyday life, understanding those things are buttoned up, right?
Right. Well, the entities not only help asset protection to protect what you've already made, but they also help you get more tax advantage too. So there's a double whammy there. And my thinking, and this is something I learned from you this morning, my thinking's always been, guys that come into our system, they need to learn to paper trade. That just takes a weekend nowadays, because with our software, you can do 100 paper trades in a day, in an evening, do 100 the next evening, you're done with that. Then you can start doing what we call the small money trading, where you take $250, $500, $1,200. Even if you're a millionaire, not more than 5,000, whatever's small to you, a small amount of money, try to double it or triple it in, say, 2 or 3 months. Because if you can't do that, you don't need to be trading with 70,000 or 100,000, right? So my thinking was, get done with the paper trading, get done with the small money trading, and then be making several $1,000s a month, and then get your entity. And you sort of corrected me on that this morning, because the way you guys set up entities is a little bit different than in the past, what I've seen in the past, where it actually has some benefits even before you start making money trading. So talk to us about that a little bit.
What I love about you, David, just the TRADEway community as a whole, everyone's focused on the TRADEway client. The whole point is you want to be able to go out and have the potential to generate income for you and your family. Obviously, that's what it's all about, right? You want to be able to generate income and create this legacy. But what we were talking about this morning is, I was saying, if you've already shown the intent, so the IRS, what they're looking for is, if you've shown the intent to start a business, you give yourself the ability to take deductions, and you can claim losses 2 or 3 out of the first 5 years in business. So what is intent? Intent can be something as little as reading a book. It can be something as little as watching a YouTube video. It can be as big as making an investment into yourself and into your future. So as a rule of thumb, what I'll usually say is, once you invest that first dollar in something that you're passionate about and know that you want to generate income with, set up an entity, right? Why do I say that? Because even if no money is generated, as long as you have a taxable income, okay? I got to say that again. You have to have a taxable income. If you don't make any money, life's harder, right? But as long as you have taxable income, W-2, self-employment, whether you generate income or not, by having the proper entity in place, it allows the ability to flow through and write off against that personal income or the taxable income. So good or bad, profit or loss, peace of mind in understanding it's a deductible expense.
All right. Now, I want to see if I can articulate where I was wrong before we talk this morning, because it's going to help people. I was thinking that you had to be making revenue through your stock trading. Obviously, my thinking is you have to have income, or you don't have anything to write off the expenses. Now, I understood you can collect them for a couple of years and back expenses and write those off towards future income. But what I didn't realize is you guys set this up as what you mentioned in a minute. You might want to explain it a little bit more broadly. You set it up as a pass-through entity. And see, I wasn't thinking about that. What that means is you don't have to be making money in the stock market yet. You can be making money still from an employer. You can be having income from another business. Correct me where I'm wrong. Any kind of income you already have coming in, if you set this up properly, like these guys are going to do, I mean, they're going to set it up as a pass-through entity, which means it passes through to your personal taxes and any other income you make in the whole world. It can be expensed against that. That's what I didn't know. Am I right about that? Am I saying it right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the point to that is it goes back to making sure you understand the proper entity, right? If we go set up something like a C corporation or a partnership that you don't need, that's going to cost you money, it's not going to do you any good unless you are generating income. You're absolutely right about that. But if we have something, LLC, S corporation, something that does have a pass-through function, well, that's profit or loss, good or bad. If we have an LLC in place and we're just getting started, but we've shown the intent by making an investment into softwares, trainings, whatever it may be, as long as we have that taxable income, W-2, self-employment, 1099, we file the personal return, we'll file the business return, and they'll flow through to one return to be able to write off against that taxable income. So to be clear, you have to have some sort of taxable income in order to benefit. If you currently are not working, if you do not have any taxable income, it's tough to get any tax benefit.
But you do get the carry forward.
You can still carry it forward.
So like you could come to a TRADEway event and buy an educational package that will be an expense to your new business that may be written off against future income. So there's a benefit there, but I see your point. What you're saying is it's super beneficial to you guys that already either have another business or you have a career where you have a W-2 where you're making income, because this will, and again, what we mean by pass-through, it's an entity. It's like an S Corp as opposed to a C Corp. An S Corp is a corporation where you get the asset protection against frivolous lawsuits, et cetera, but the income passes through to your personal income tax, and that's where also the expenses pass through, so it can be expensed against other revenue. That's beautiful, man. I didn't even know you set it up that way till this morning. I should have known, but I didn't. But I mean, that is powerful.
It's great. And another thing that I just like to just clear up and get out there into the open is we don't want to just be living in fear, right? You make a big decision, you make a life change. Change is scary, right? But we don't want to live in fear and have it hold us back either. So a lot of times, if you're listening to this, you're doing it because you want to better yourself, better your situation, better your financial future. Let's set the fear aside. I hate talking about the fear aspect, and let's talk more about the peace of mind. Whether you're making money or not, you're doing this to better your financial future. If you're going to do something, do it right from the start and have that peace of mind that you've laid the foundation to allow yourself to build and grow from that foundation, right? Let's get away from living in fear and thinking what shoulda, coulda, woulda. Live in the now, but prepare for the future and help your financial future.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a question for you here. We've seen something in recent years, it's new to me, is all of a sudden the stock exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange, they've all started charging $150 a month on average for data to be able to trade stock if you trade through an entity, as opposed to maybe $4 a month for an individual. So that's a problem, because when we do set up these entities, they're going to see that, they're going to consider you to be a professional, and they're going to charge you $150 a month just for data to be able to see your charting and to know what the stock's doing and to buy and sell the stocks. What you're thinking on that, Tommy, and I would imagine what you're going to be saying is you just have to factor that expense in with the revenue from either other jobs and other revenue you have, plus the trading revenue, to see if it's worth doing that. Do you have any other solution, or is that kind of how you have to look at it?
Yes, I'm happy that you brought this up, because at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself in a bind to where you're spending more money than you're comfortable with, right? Especially if it's a monthly expense. We don't want to put you in a position where you're just spending money for no reason. That's not That's not a good business strategy, right? So with that being said, January 1st, 2018, we experienced one of the largest tax code changes the U.S. has ever seen in Tax Cuts and Job Acts. And it really limits your itemized deductions. Now, like you've mentioned, with President Biden in office now, those things are going to change. And in my opinion, they're probably not going to change for the better of an entrepreneur. But the reality is there's still deductions that you can take advantage of. So we can't get caught up in whether it's taken away or whether it's there. We need to take advantage of the deductions that we can have. So when 2018 hits and it says itemized deductions are going to help business owners, all of a sudden these brokerage accounts are charging, like you said, $150 a month, $200 a month. It depends on how much money you have in your brokerage account. And it's crazy, but it is what it is. So it's one of those things that depending on who you talk to, they'll have you either fill out a form and say, right now I'm trading as an individual with my name and my social. I want to trade with a business name and an EIN. They'll say, oh, you're trading as a business. That's smart. Give me $150 a month. I hate that. And if it makes sense, do it because it's deductible. But if you're not trading and that $150 a month is, I don't want to do that, then don't, but still take the itemized deduction. So you can still take advantage of itemized deductions like your phone, your internet. For those of you that have home office expenses or a home office that you trade in, softwares that you purchase, training courses, you don't have to have that tied with the brokerage account to take advantage of the itemized deduction. So do what's smart and best for you, but you can still take those deductions. Go ahead.
All right. You just had a light bulb turn on in my head, because what I think I hear you saying is you could still set up the entity, capture the educational expenses, maybe TRADEway educational expenses where you pay us for education, capture all those as itemized expenses that can be still passed through the entity, pass through to your personal income and be written off against your W-2 money of any other business or income you have. But just don't tell the brokerage company that you're going to trade through that entity yet. Still use your personal name and it's $4 a month. Then because see, what I wasn't seeing, Tommy, is you can still take all these expenses and save tax money with them. So you don't have to trade through the entity yet. So then when you get the point to have the potential to make $1,000, $2,000 a month pretty early on in your career, once you've finished your small money trading, you know what you're doing. Once you're making a couple $1,000 a month, you don't mind paying $150 a month. And then you might want to switch and trade through the entity because then you get the asset protection. That's the reason you want to switch over when you can. But your point that you taught me and second new thing this morning is that you can still capture the expenses, the educational expenses, some travel expenses. You have to get in with your individual clients on what they can capture through that entity, but not trade through it yet until you're making enough money in your trading, to merit paying the $150 a month for the data. And it is a silly rule, but it is there. But I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me because the main thing, eventually if you're making a couple $1,000 a month trading, you do want to switch that in and start trading with your entity to get the asset protection, right? But before that, you still get the tax advantages. You just don't have to tell the brokerage company you're trading through the entity, trade as an individual until you're making a couple $1,000 a month, but still own the entity.
Yep, absolutely. And every brokerage account is a little bit different as well, right? So understanding your situation, making sure you have the proper entity in place, understanding that entity is set up properly opens up a lot of doors, once again, for asset protection and for tax benefits. Let's work at your pace. It's crawl before you walk before you run. But let's make sure you understand what running looks like so that you can get there.
Yeah. Well, wow. I mean, I've learned so much already today. I got one other question, though. We have a lot of our clients who can trade through their IRA. Now, the good thing about it is the brokerage companies so far do not count an IRA as a professional, so you still only pay $4 a month for the data, which is awesome. So you can set it up where you can actually, trade through your IRA, through your brokerage company, because the brokerage company you're trading through can manage your IRA. And you can trade through that. Now, do you have any comments on anything we need to know about that's different?
I love it. I don't think anything really changes there. What I would say is if you're trading through an IRA, you understand that you go out and make money and you don't have to pay the tax on it as long as it stays there, which is beautiful. If you lose money, there's no deductions. But if it's through an IRA, great. I love it. It's a beautiful strategy. But why not still have the separate entity to take the itemized deductions of the travel, the education, and these other deductions that we've talked about?
Exactly. I mean, let's be clear. An IRA is not a business entity, and you don't get any deductions, like we're talking about, business expense deductions through that at all. So you need the entity, the business that you're trading through, to capture all these expenses. And eventually, when you're making money trading, to give you the asset protection for that. But what's cool about it is if you have an IRA, don't think you have to pull money out of that and be penalized and taxed to trade with. You can trade within the IRA. And like Tommy said, you can still have your entity to capture expenses and so forth through the business. It's all really cool. And all you need to do is sit down and talk with Tommy and his staff and give him the individual case study of your own family and tell them everything, all the assets and liabilities you have, and they can help you know exactly how to do this. So, Tommy, if our clients have further questions or if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. We look forward to speaking with everybody. And for those of you that do want to speak with us, all you have to do is go to www.primecorporateservices.com/TRADEway and click on the calendar, schedule an appointment for a time that works best with your schedule. 45 minutes to an hour. It's a free consultation because of the relationship here with TRADEway. So primecorporateservices.com/TRADEway and schedule an appointment to speak with one of our team members.
All right. And what they can do is they can look at your assets, your liabilities, and your individual, all the details about your family, your other businesses, your other income, and customize this thing for you. And that is so awesome. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about what if you're new out there listening to this episode of our podcast and you're saying, man, I want to learn how to have the potential to make this money that I'm going to protect. Well, go out to TRADEway.com and find a membership called Trader Pro. That is so awesome because what that one gets you is it gets you the foundational information for everything your stock trading will ever be based on, and it takes it further than that. You'll also learn about options, and options is where, we were talking about, Tommy, a minute ago, how like your congressman knows about entities and how to protect assets and lower their taxes legally, but most blue collar folks don't. But that's what Tommy's going to teach you. But I'll tell you something else your congressman knows how to do that a lot of you guys don't, and that's how to leverage and make it where every dollar you have is worth $7 or $14. And the way you do that is to learn to do options. So Trader Pro is going to give you that information. I mean, that is such a powerful skill set to learn how to trade with options and do spreads, different things, where every dollar in your trading account is like $7. Now think of the power. That can give you the potential to create wealth in your lifetime if you know how to leverage. So we're going to provide that. We're going to give you all kinds of cool things that's going to teach you about how to get the fundamentals right, where you have a basket of stocks. They're the right kind of growth stocks to trade with. We're going to help you know how the overall news in the world, economic news, world news, affects the trades you're in. That's included in this. We're going to have an active trader community page you can go out to. And get this, a live trading hour every day of the week, Monday through Thursday, where you can actually get on during the market with our amazing professional coaches and with a whole bunch of students and actually do trades. All of this is included in Trader Pro. So check out that membership. And let me remind you too, if some of you guys are listening and you're already Top Guns, if you do want to get involved with Trader Pro, there are some other things there that you're going to get. And we got some great discounts on that for you if you're already involved as a Top Gun. So check that out. Talk with the staff about that. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, I want you to be sure and rate and review it, because what we're going to do, if you'll do that, I'm going to give you free access to our incredible Word on Investing Virtual Summit coming up April 22nd through 24th. And Tommy's going to be on there with us. It's a 3-day value-packed session with a whole bunch of guys. Myself, we'll have Dr. Myron Golden, we'll have Tommy on there and his staff. And I'm going to give you free access to that event if you just rate and review this show today. That'd be so awesome, because then like-minded people can find us. So just go out to TRADEway. TRADEway.com and find the summit and pre-register for it. And we'd love you to do that, TRADEway.com. Well, Tommy, I can't tell you how much I learned today from you, and I need to talk with you more often. And so we'd love to have you come back sometime. I know we will in the future, but thank you so much for your time today.
I appreciate you having me, and I'd love to come back. So thank you to you, and thank you to your entire staff and team and everyone that makes this thing happen. We greatly appreciate it.
All right, man, it was so valuable. All right, guys, we hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time.